Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Imam al-Anbiya wal Mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ansarihi wa azwajihi wa dhurriyyatihi ajma'in. Allahumma arna al-haqqa haqqan wa rzuqna ittiba'ah wa arna al-batila batilan wa rzuqna ijtinaba. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to this another of our sittings. Today, by Allah's will, we shall be continuing with the Tafseer of Surah Al-Ankabut, the spider. As I told you previously, this surah was revealed in Holy Mecca. And any surah that begins with letters like Alif Lam Mim, that is the sign that it was revealed in Mecca. The exception to the rule is Surah Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran. They begin with letters, but they were revealed in Medina. The last time we were here, we stopped at the ayah, ayah 14, in which Allah Ta'ala said, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْتَ إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ إِلَّا 50 عام. And indeed we sent Noah to his people, and he stayed among them 1,000 years, except 50. إِلَّا 50 عاما. So this prophet Noah, he became a prophet when he was 40 years old, and his message was for 950 years, and he lived 60 years after the flood. And do the calculation, he lived for 1,050 years. According to my research about this prophet, Noah. According to my research, he became a prophet when he was 40. And his da'wah was for 950 years. And he lived 60 years after the flood. His people were the first people to dabble in shirk. Ibn Abbas said between Adam and Nuh, there were 10 generations, and they were all upon Tawheed. And the people of Noah were the first people ever to dabble in shirk. And Allah Ta'ala destroyed them with the flood. Unfortunately, his wife and his son were among those who were destroyed because they were kuffar. Then we saved him and those with him in the ship, and made it, the ship, a lesson for mankind. So Allah Ta'ala saved Noah, and how many people were in the boat with him? There were 80 people. 80. Okay, have you brought a hadith in regards to this? And Al-Hakim, who said it was authentic. Ibn Abbas, between Noah and Adam were 10 generations, all of them were upon Sharia, the truth. And they differed, so Allah sent prophets and bringers of tidings. Yes, this is a famous hadith. Between Adam and Noah were 10 generations, and they were all upon Tawheed. And the first people ever to dabble in shirk were the people of Noah. 80 people were in the boat with Noah. So after giving dawah for 950 years, only 80 people took Shahada. The others rebelled against his message. His own wife did not believe, and she died among those who perished. And his own son was not a believer as well. 2 prophets had kuffar wives, Prophet Noah and Prophet Lut. I don't know of any other prophets who had Kafir wives. Only these 2. If you find a third prophet with a Kafir wife, please inform me about it. Because according to my research, only 2 prophets had Kafir wives. Prophet Noah and Prophet Lut. So if any one of you can come up with a third prophet who had a Kafir wife, let me know about it, because I don't know about that third prophet who had a Kafir wife. And Abraham, when he said to his people, worship Allah alone and fear Him, that is better for you if you but knew. You worship beside Allah only idols, and you only invent falsehood. Verily, those whom you worship beside Allah have no power to give you provision. So seek your provision from Allah alone, and worship Allah alone, and be grateful to Him. Be thankful to Allah. To Him alone you will be brought back. So Prophet Abraham used Tawheed Rububiyyah as Hujjah for Tawheed Ibadah. Since Allah is the only creator and provider, He is the only Rabb, it is Allah alone who deserves to be worshipped. So whenever a da'i is skillful in da'wah, he always used Tawheed Rububiyyah, that Allah is the only creator, as Hujjah, evidence for Tawheed Ibadah. Allah Himself said it in Surah 31 verse 11. Surah 31 verse 11. Allah said, هَذَا خَلْقُ الرَّحْمَنِ. This is the wonderful creation of Allah. هَذَا خَلْقُ اللَّهِ. هَذَا خَلْقُ اللَّهِ. This is a wonderful creation of Allah. فَأَرُونِي مَاذَا خَلَقَ الَّذِينَ مِن دُونِهِ بَلِ الظَّالِمُونَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. This is the wonderful creation of Allah. So show me that which those whom you worship beside Him, what have they created for you? What have they done for you? What did they create for you? Nay, the polytheists, the wrongdoers, those who don't believe in Allah are in plain error, manifest error. So even Allah Ta'ala used that as a strategy to give da'wah. Since I am the only creator, I am the one who deserves the worship, the praise, the glory. These idols that you worship beside Allah, Lat, Uzza, Hubal, Manat, and today Ram, Sita, Hanuman, and the Buddha, what did they create for you? What have they done for you? And if you deny them, if you deny, the nations before you have denied their messengers. And the duty of the messenger is only to convey the message. You, the Kafirs of Quraysh, if you reject Muhammad, many nations before you rejected their prophets. But what was their result? What happened to them? Because Allah told us in the Quran, His sunnah doesn't change. And the sunnah of Allah is to destroy the wayward. Surah 35 verse 43. Allah told us in Surah 35 verse 43. وَلَن تَجِدْ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. You will never find any change in the sunnah of Allah. وَلَن تَجِدْ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. You'll never find any alterations, any turning off in the sunnah of Allah. So what is the sunnah of Allah? The sunnah of Allah is to destroy the kuffar with natural disasters. But Allah Ta'ala has adopted another approach with this ummah. Allah said, I prefer to use you, the Muslims, to punish the kuffar with your blessed hands. The previous nations, I destroyed them with natural disasters. But as for the ummah of Muhammad, I prefer to use the Muslims to kill the kuffar on the battlefield. Surah Tawbah verse 14. I prefer to destroy them with your blessed hands. So the bulk of the kuffar will be killed by the mujahideen. But because Allah's sunnah doesn't change, still Allah will destroy some kuffar with natural disasters, like you saw what happened with Hurricane Katrina and the tsunami in Japan. Even though I will use the mujahideen to kill the kuffar, like Allah told you in Surah Tawbah verse 14, قَاتِلُهُمْ يُعَذِّبُهُمُ اللَّهُ بِأَيْدِيكُمْ. Fight them and Allah will punish them with your blessed hands. Because my sunnah doesn't change, still you will live to see natural disasters, like Hurricane Katrina or the tsunami of Banda Aceh or the tsunami of Japan. You live to see natural disasters repeatedly because my sunnah doesn't change. When Aisha said to Rasul, tell me about natural disasters, the Prophet said, oh Aisha, the hurricane that you see It's a punishment for the kuffar, but a lesson for the believers. This was the verdict the Rasul gave on hurricanes. A punishment for the kuffar, but a lesson for the believers. Maybe you can find this hadith. See there not how Allah originates the creation, then repeats it. Verily, that is easy for Allah. Some of you don't believe in the resurrection. Are you trying to limit Allah's power? Allah is saying to you in Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 19, the one who created the creation by saying, Kun fayakun, be and it is. It is easy for him to bring the creation back. He is the originator of the creation. He who creates, it's easy for him to resurrect. By you denying resurrection, you are seeking to limit the powers of Allah. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا كَيْفَ يُبْدِئُ اللَّهُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ. Allah Ta'ala is the originator of the creation, and it's easy for him to repeat it, bring it back. That is for Allah, Yasir. Yasir means easy. Say, travel in the land and see how Allah originated the creation. And then Allah will bring forth the creation of the hereafter, the resurrection after death. Verily, Allah is able to do all things. He punishes whom He wills and shows mercy to whom He wills, and to Him you will be returned. So, Allah Ta'ala, one of His 99 names and attributes is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And Allah Ta'ala is Ghafur Rahim, and Allah is Shadid al-Iqab. So Allah said in the Quran, He is Shadid al-Iqab, and Allah said He is Ghafur Rahim. When I was on tour of Nigeria, I quoted a hadith in the masjid, and the people were surprised. I'm going to quote the hadith here and see if you will be surprised as well. The hadith says, if you did not commit sins, Allah would wipe you out of creation and bring about a new creation who would sin. And when they seek Allah's forgiveness, then Allah will forgive them of their sin. That's the hadith I quoted in Nigeria, and the people were shocked. If you did not sin, committing zina, drinking alcohol, smoking weed, so on and so forth, if you did not sin, Allah would wipe you out of creation, bring about a new creation who would sin. And when they turn to Allah with sincere repentance, then Allah Ta'ala will forgive them of their sins. This is the hadith I quoted in Nigeria in 2008 on my African tour, and the people were surprised. So you are not allowed to be a khawarij and give up hope from Allah's mercy. Because Allah said in Surah Nisa, verse 48, the only sin He doesn't forgive is shirk. Surah Nisa, verse 48. Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha. Well, Allah doesn't forgive shirk, but Allah will forgive anything else to whom He please. And no one gives up from Allah's mercy except al-kafirun. No one gives up from Allah's mercy except al-kafirun. So Allah punishes who He wants and He forgives who He wants. A man will come on Judgment Day and he deserves to be dumped into the hellfire. Yet Allah will give him paradise. Why? Because Allah said, Inna rahmati taghlib ghadabi. Verily my mercy prevails over my wrath. So a man will come on Judgment Day and he deserves to be dumped into the hellfire. Yet Allah will forgive him. Why? Because he did not commit shirk. He did not commit shirk. And Allah said, Ya ibn Adam, O children of Adam, Lo ataytani biqurab al-ardi khataya. If you come to me with your sins reaching the sky, as long as you did not commit shirk, I will grant you forgiveness and I do not mind. Wala ubali. Allah is Maliki Yawmiddin. Maliki Yawmiddin, Master of the Day of Judgment, it has three meanings. The first meaning is only Allah knows the date of Judgment Day. Not even Jesus knows when is Judgment Day. Matthew 24 verse 36. What did Jesus say? I don't know when is Judgment Day. Not even the angels know. Only God Himself. Matthew 24 verse 36. This is the Bible verse we use to checkmate those who say Jesus is God. Maliki Yawmiddin has three meanings. The first meaning, only Allah knows the date for Judgment Day. The second meaning, no one can intercede for somebody on Judgment Day except by the permission of Allah. So Allah said, "Man الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه." Who can intercede for someone except by the permission of Allah? The third meaning for Malik Yawmiddin is Allah sends to paradise who He wants, and Allah sends to the hellfire who He wants, and no one can veto the decisions of Allah. And Allah can send to paradise a person before another person, and you might say, why did you put him in paradise before me? That is Allah's decision. On Judgment Day, a Muslim will worship Allah for 40 years. He will come to Allah as a worshipper for 40 years. A Yahud from Bani Israel will worship Allah for 400 years. Yet Allah will put the Muslim in paradise before the Jew who worship Allah for 400 years. The Jew will say, "Oh Allah, I worship you for 400 years, and the Muslim worship you for 40 years. Yet you put him in paradise before me." Allah will say to the Jew, "Yes, because of Laylatul Qadr. I put him in paradise before you because of Laylatul Qadr." Laylatul Qadr is one of the gifts of Allah to this ummah, and no ummah before you had the barakah of Laylatul Qadr. Inna anzalnahu fi Laylatil Qadr. Verily we revealed it in the night of power, the night of divine decree. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. It is better than 1,000 years. So Allah Ta'ala forgives who He wants and He punishes who He wants, and no one can veto His decisions. And you cannot escape in the earth or in the heavens from Allah. And besides Allah, you have neither any wali, protector, guardian, nor any helper. And those who disbelieve in the ayah, the proofs, the evidences of Allah and the meeting with Him, it is they who have no hope of my mercy. And it is they who will have a painful torment. So, what Allah is saying here is that if you are a Kafir, you have no hope. You are finished. Because Allah Ta'ala said in Surah 3 verse 19, Inna din in the law al-Islam. The only religion acceptable to Allah is al-Islam. Surah 3 verse 85, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ إِسْلَامَ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Anyone who follows a religion other than Islam, it won't be accepted from him, and on Judgment Day he shall be among the khasirin, the losers. Paradise is exclusive for the Muslims. It's impossible for a Jew, a Christian, a Sikh, a Buddhist, a Hindu to go to the paradise. If a Jew cannot go to paradise, or a Christian, how can a Hindu go to paradise? That's even more impossible. And if a child was born from a Jewish and Buddhist parents, the child is a Jew, because according to Sharia law, the child takes the religion which is better. If a child was born from a Christian and Hindu parents, the child is a Christian, because according to Sharia law, the child takes the better religion. And if a child was born from a Muslim and Christian parents, the child is automatically a Muslim, because according to Sharia law, the child takes on the religion which is better. And if a child was born from a Muslim father and a Jewish mother, the child is automatically a Muslim, because according to Sharia law, we go by the father. According to Jewish law, they go by the mother. So if a Christian man impregnated a Jewish girl, the child is automatically a Jew. That's Jewish law. A Christian man impregnated a Jewish girl, the child is a Jew. That's Jewish law. But according to Islamic law, we go by the father. So if a Muslim man impregnated a Jewish girl, the child is automatically a Muslim, because we do the opposite of the Jews. The Jews go by the mother, and we go by the father. Those who disbelieve in the signs of Allah, His verses, His lessons, and the meeting with Him, Allah, which is Judgment Day, it is they who have no hope of my mercy. Allah said, there is no chance of me having mercy on them. Those who deny the hellfire will be condemned to the hellfire forever. I repeat, those who deny the hellfire will be condemned to the hellfire forever. Those who deny the paradise will be barred from entering the paradise forever. So nothing was the answer of Abraham's people except that they said, kill him or burn him. Then Allah Ta'ala saved him from the fire. Verily, in this are indeed signs for the people who believe. Now Abraham went and debated with Nimrod. And during the debate, he told Nimrod that my Lord gives life and takes life. And Nimrod said, I can do the same. So he set a murderer free who was supposed to be killed, hanged, and then he killed an innocent man and said to Abraham, I can give life and take life. Look, I set the murderer free. By the power invested in me, I gave him back his life. And the innocent man, I chop off his head. And Abraham said, my Lord caused the sun to rise from the east and sets in the west. I want you to cause it to rise from the west and set in the east. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. I want you to do the opposite. So Allah said, فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. The Kafir was defeated in the debate. فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. The Kafir was defeated in the debate. And the debate was, it was a lengthy debate because they had a spring festival. And Abraham stayed behind. They left their village to go to the township to go on a festival, a spring festival. And Abraham stayed behind and didn't go. And he broke the idols with an axe. He demolished the idols in the temple of the king. And he put the axe against the big one. And when the king asked him who broke the idols, he said, the big one broke the idols. Why don't you ask him? Why don't you ask him who did the crime? And the king said, Abraham, the idol is lifeless. We can't ask the idol cannot speak. And Abraham said, if you know that your God is lifeless, why then do you worship him? So he checkmated the king, Nimrod, and the king was very, very upset. Nobody likes to be checkmated, to be defeated in a debate. So they built a fire for Abraham. It took them a month to gather the wood to build the fire. That's how big the fire was. It took them a month. It's the biggest fire ever to be built on the face of the earth. And when they ignited the fire, they put tar on the fire. Tar. When they ignited the fire, they said, we have a problem. We can't go near the fire to throw Abraham in the fire. So how will we get him in the fire? One of them said, let's build a slingshot. I will repeat what I'm saying. Abraham destroyed the idols except the big one, and he put the axe against the big one. And the king said to Abraham, Abraham, who did the crime? Who destroyed the idols? And Abraham said, the big one. Why don't you ask him? He did the crime. Ask him. He will tell you he did the crime. The king said, Abraham, this idol is lifeless. It cannot speak. So how can I ask him? Abraham said, since you know that your God is lifeless, your God has no life, why do you worship it and pray to it? The king was checkmated, and the king was defeated in the debate. And the king was so upset to be publicly humiliated by Abraham. Abraham was only about 17 years old when he broke the idols. It's called the bravery of youth. The bravery of youth. So youthfulness is a double-edged sword. When you're a youth, you are brave, and also when you're a youth, you can be stupid. When you get married for the first time in your life, you said, what a fool I was. Had I got married when I was 30, 35, I would make a better choice. Sometimes when you get married the first time around, you don't get it right. You have to get married the second time around, then you get it right. Because when you got married, you were a youth. It's called the curse of youth. So youthfulness is a double-edged sword. It has goodness in it. You are brave as a youth. You stand up for justice. But you can also be stupid. That's why you need the advice of the elders. So when the debate took place about my Lord gives life and takes life. Abraham was commanded to take 4 birds and cut off the heads of the 4 birds and put the 4 birds on 4 different mountains and pray to Allah, and then the birds were assembled back to life in front of Abraham and the king. Nimrod saw when Abraham cut off the heads of the 4 birds and put them on 4 different mountains. Then Abraham prayed to Allah, and the birds became alive again in front of Nimrod. And still Nimrod did not believe. Can you imagine that? You see such a powerful miracle, one of the miracles of Abraham, in front of your very eyes, and still you did not believe? Subhanallah. Nimrod didn't believe. Why? Because of pride, arrogance, and haughtiness. That is a very powerful miracle of Abraham. 4 birds were killed, their heads were cut off and put on 4 different mountains, and their wings were taken off their bodies as well. The birds were dismembered, they were dissected. 4 birds on 4 different mountains, and then Allah brought the birds back to life in front of your very eyes, and still you, Nimrod, did not believe? A'udhu billah. You are a real Kafir. You are a real Kafir. Instead of believing in what you saw, you built a fire for Abraham. It took you 1 month to gather the firewood before you can ignite the fire. So a small fire was not enough for the pagan. He needed a huge fire. And the commentator said this fire was the biggest fire ever built on earth. Why it took them a month to gather the firewood? Because a pagan hates you. Surah 5 verse 82, bring me the ayah. Allah Ta'ala said in Surah 5, Ma'idah 82, لَتَجْدَنَّ أَشَدَّ النَّاسِ عَدَاوَةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الْيَهُودُ وَالَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا. You shall find that the people on earth who hate you, the Muslims, the most will be Yahud and those who worship idols, like Hindus and Buddhists. Now you know why it took them a month to build a fire before they could dump Prophet Abraham in the fire. And they stripped him naked before they dumped him in the fire. And they tied him up. How did they dump him in the fire? Because they couldn't go near to the fire. The fire was too big. So they said, we have a problem. We can't go near the fire. How will we dump him in the fire? We are going to be affected by the heat of the fire. They had to build a slingshot, a catapult, and toss him in the fire. The only thing that burnt, how long was he in the fire? 40 days and 40 nights. Don't think it was 1 day, 40 days and 40 nights. The only thing that burned was the rope they used to tie his hands and feet. Those were the only things that got burnt. Abraham himself didn't get burned. And this incident took place in Iraq. This incident took place in Iraq, in Babylon, on the outskirts of Kufa. And Abraham said, you have taken for worship. Allah Ta'ala rescued him from the fire because Allah commanded the fire, Ya naran kunu bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim. O fire, become salam, become bardan, cold and peaceful on Abraham. When Abraham came out of the fire, he said that those days were the best days in my life. The 40 days I spent in the fire were the best days in my life. And Abraham said, you have taken for worship idols instead of Allah. The love between you is only in the life of this world. But on the day of resurrection, the day of judgment, you shall disown each other, curse each other, and your abode will be in the hellfire, and you shall have no helpers. Ayah 25. Now this is the reality. In the dunya, you were criminals, you were partners in crime. In the dunya, what were you? Partners in crime. What was your crime? Kufr, shirk, and hypocrisy and zandaqa. That was your crime. But Allah is telling you in Surah Al-Ankabut verse 25, the love affair between you and your false deities, it's short-lived. If you love a person in the dunya and in the akhirah, that is true love. Why? You love the person in the dunya and in the hereafter. That is true love. But if you love a person in the dunya and in the hereafter, you become enemies, that love was fake. Allah is saying to you that the love between you and your false deities, it is short-lived, because in the hereafter you are going to blame each other. Everybody will be blaming one another. That is your pathetic state on the day of judgment. You shall be blaming each other. In the dunya you were partners in crime. What is your crime? Kufr, shirk, zandaka. Zandaka means heresy and hypocrisy, as well as apostasy. Heresy, hypocrisy, apostasy. You are partners in crime and you pretend to love each other, but in the hereafter you shall blame each other. The wicked scholars and their students will blame each other. Bring me Baqarah 166 to 167. Bring me the ayah. Even the wicked scholars, Allah said, you and your students, you shall blame each other in the hereafter. The love affair between the wicked scholars and the murid, that love affair is short-lived. So Allah said in Baqarah 166 to 167, إِذْ تَبَرَّأَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا وَرَوُا الْعَذَابَ وَتَقَطَّعَتْ بِهِمْ الْأَسْبَابُ وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا لَوْ أَنَّ لَنَا قَرَّةً فَنَتَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُمْ كَمَا تَبَرُّوا مِنَّا. When those who were followed disowned, declare themselves innocent of those who followed them, and they see the torment, the blazing fire, then all their relations will be cut off from them. What Allah said, all your relations will be cut off from you. You, the wicked scholar, and your students. And those who followed will say, if only we had one more chance. لَوْ أَنَّ لَنَا قَرَّةً. If only we were given one more chance to return to the dunya, the world, we would disown, declare ourselves innocent from them as they have disowned, declared themselves innocent from us. The ayahs are nowhere they are found. Because the hypocrite said, we don't want to debate Shaikh Faisal, we want to debate his students. Because they think you don't know where the ayahs are found. They think you're not sharp with the hujjah. That's what they claim. We don't want to debate the Shaykh, we want his students. We want to debate them one by one. They think they can break you. They think if they catch you by yourself, one by one, in private PM, they can break you down. Because you're not quick with the hujjah. That's what they claim. We are yet to see that. We are yet to see them to prove their claim to be correct. Who did you break down who did you break down in private PM and make them apostate from the Aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? You haven't succeeded yet. It's important you know these ayahs. This is for the wicked scholars. Memorize where the ayahs are found so that when you debate, you're not slow with the hujjah. I don't like when you are slow with the hujjah. You hear me in this room, I scream and shout when you take long to bring the hujjah. I yell, I scream and shout, where is the hujjah? You have to be sharp in bringing the hujjah. This hujjah, Baqarah 166, is talking about wicked scholars and their students. 166, 167. On Judgment Day, they will make bara from each other. In the dunya, they were partners in crime, in kufr, shirk, zandaka, heresy. But in the hereafter, it won't be the case. They will declare themselves innocent of each other. Now, the Quran is the greatest book of psychology, psychiatry, sociology. Did you know that if a group of men plotted to rob a bank and they get caught, they blame each other? Did you know that? Not just in the hereafter, in the dunya as well. Did you know that when the Kafir lose the war in Afghanistan, they're going to blame each other? They're going to turn on each other? Did you know that? The Quran is the greatest book of psychology, sociology, and psychiatry. So if you study the Quran, you will know the mentality of the Kafir. When they launch a project, if the project fails, they blame each other and they turn on each other. So don't think it's only in the hereafter that the kuffar will turn on each other. They shall turn on each other in the dunya. When they fail in Afghanistan, they are going to say, it was your idea. It was your idea. You knew that Alexander the Great went to Afghanistan and he failed. You knew the British went there 3 times and the British failed. You knew that Napoleon went there and he failed. You know that the Russians went there and they stayed there for some 8 years and the Russians failed. Why did you go there? Afghanistan is the graveyard of superpowers. Why did you go there? It was your idea. When they fail in Afghanistan, they are going to turn on each other. That is the nature of kufr. When they launch a project, if the project fails, no one wants to take the blame, they turn on each other. I put it to you, the Holy Quran is the greatest book of psychology and psychiatry. If you want to be a proper shrink, read the Quran. A shrink is a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Today, in our time, they call a counselor a shrink as well. If you're a counselor, they call you a shrink. If you want to be a proper shrink, read the Quran. Because the Quran tells you in details the mentality of the kuffar. So Allah is saying to you that this love affair between you and the shaitan and his henchmen is short-lived. Then Allah told you in Surah 14 verse 22, even the shaitan will wash his hands of those who follow him. Surah 14 verse 22. Surah Ibrahim verse 22. Even Iblis himself shall wash his hands of all those who follow him. So Allah Ta'ala said in Surah 14 verse 22, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانِ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرِ, and the shaitan will say when the matter has been decided, verily Allah promised you a promise of truth, and I too promise you, but I betrayed you. My promise was fake. I betrayed you. I was phony. If an American say to you, you are phony, what does that mean? Phony like a baloney. Do you live in America? If an American say to you, you are phony, it means you're phony like a baloney. If phony means you're fake, you're fraud, you're not for real, you're plastic, you're not real. The shaitan said, I was phony. My promises were fake. I was phony like a baloney. All my promises to you were fake promises. Do you know which promise was the truth? The promise of Allah was the truth. But my promise was fake. Then the shaitan said, I too promised you, but I betrayed you because my promise was fake. I had no authority over you except that I called you and you responded to me. So blame me not, but blame yourselves. I cannot help you. Today on Judgment Day, I can't help you, nor can you help me. I deny your former act of associating me, Iblis, as a partner beside Allah, by obeying me in the life of the world. So the shaitan said, when you used to worship me beside Allah instead of Allah, I, Iblis, I rejected faith in the kufr you were practicing. Iblis said it. When you used to worship me instead of Allah in the dunya, when you followed me instead of Allah, I, Iblis, I rejected faith in the kufr that you were practicing. Subhanallah. Iblis will wash his hands of the people who followed him in the hereafter. And he'll say, don't blame me, blame yourselves. I only tempted you. I dangled the carrot in front of you, and out of greed, you swallowed the carrot. I only dangled the carrot in front of you. I tempted you, and you accepted my temptation. I didn't have any power over you. Don't blame me, blame yourself. Why couldn't you be like Umar al-Khattab? When I used to see Umar al-Khattab walking down the road, I would walk on the other side of the road. Why couldn't you be like him? Why didn't you have strong iman like him? Why did you follow me? Why did you worship me? Don't blame me, blame yourselves. You can't help me today, and I can't help you. And by the way, when you used to worship me beside Allah instead of Allah, I, Iblis, I rejected faith in the kufr that you were practicing. Surah 14 verse 22. Yet I brought you another evidence that on Judgment Day no relationship will be acknowledged. No relationship. Everybody will be cut off from his friends and allies and his families. I'll bring you another evidence, Surah 43 verse 67, to prove to you that on Judgment Day there is no relationship. Surah 43 verse 67. Yet another evidence to prove to you that these family ties that you have in the dunya, and you becoming partners with each other in kufr and shirk and zandaka, this partnership and this friendship and this family ties will be cut off. Friends on that day will be foes one to another. You know what Allah said? Al-akhilla yawma idhin ba'duhum li ba'd addu illa al-muttaqeen. Did you get the ayah? Did the ayah register in your brains, in your heart? Friends on that day, the day of judgment, will become enemies, foes, one to another. Then Allah said, except al-muttaqun. Except al-muttaqun, the pious ones. Except those who were partners in birr and taqwa. If you were partners in birr and taqwa, you will love each other in the dunya and love each other in the akhirah, because you will help each other to go to the paradise. But if you were partners in kufr, shirk, zandaka, heresy, apostasy, hypocrisy, your friendship is only in the dunya. Because in the hereafter, Allah said, you'll become nothing but enemies one to another. Because you'll blame each other for going to the hellfire. It is your fault why I'm going to the hellfire, because you were the one who conned me into your false beliefs, into your false manhaj, into your false fiqh. You conned me into your false fiqh. You are on the Surah Al-Mustaqim if you get three things right: your creed, aqidah, your fiqh, your jurisprudence, and your manhaj, your methodology. If you get these three things right, then you are on the Surah Al-Mustaqim. If you don't get these three things right, I'm afraid you are of the Daleen, those who are astray. And you are not allowed to give honor and respect to a person who is a mubtadi'. Because the Prophet said, Man akrama sahib al-bid'ah faqad a'ana ala hadm al-Islam. Anyone who respects a bid'ati, he is helping to destroy Islam. So when you go for 40 days in the Tablighi Jama'ah, they say, Ibn Arabi rahimahullah. How can they say Ibn Arabi rahimahullah? Okay, shukran for the hadith. If you give respect to a bid'ati, a person who does bid'ah, innovations, you are helping to destroy Islam. How can you say Ibn Arabi rahimahullah? May Allah have mercy on him. Ibn Arabi was the worst kafir to walk earth, who believes in wahdatul wujud, and you say Ibn Arabi rahimahullah? Tablighi Jama'ah, you need to sort yourself out, sort out your aqidah. What do you mean Ibn Arabi rahimahullah? The man introduced wahdatul wujud to the Muslims, that man can become Allah. So why are you the Tablighi Jama'ah? Why you praise him? He believes man can become Allah. And when you go deeper in the Tablighi Jama'ah, you'll find out that the Maulanas who are at the top of this movement, they all believe in wahdatul wujud. When you go deep into the Tablighi Jama'ah, you'll find out the Maulanas who are at the top of the movement, they all believe in wahdatul wujud. Yeah, there are two Ibn Arabi as-Sufi and Ibn Arabi al-Maliki. Ibn Arabi al-Maliki was a great scholar who was a Tafseer scholar. He wrote a Tafseer. We're not talking about Ibn Arabi al-Maliki. That's a great scholar. We're talking about Ibn Arabi as-Sufi. When the Tablighi Jama'ah say Ibn Arabi rahimahullah, they are talking about the Sufi who believes in wahdatul wujud. Because the Tablighi Jama'ah is a Sufi tariqah, which is called the Deobandi tariqah. The Tablighi Jama'ah is a Sufi tariqah, which is called the Deobandi tariqah. So Lut believed in him and Abraham message of Islamic monotheism. He said, I will immigrate for the sake of my Lord. Verily he is the Almighty, the All-Wise. So when Lut heard the message of Abraham, he believed in Abraham. So who was Lut? Prophet Lut. Lut was the son of his brother. Abraham had a brother. Prophet Lot was the son of his brother. So that made him his nephew. Who migrated? I will immigrate for the sake of Allah. Who did the hijrah? The scholars of Islam differed among themselves. Ibn Abbas said it was Abraham who made it. Some said Lut made hijrah. Did you know that? I will immigrate for the sake of Allah. Did you know the scholars, they split right down the middle about this ayah? Who did the hijrah? Some say Abraham did the hijrah. Some said Lut did the hijrah. The correct opinion, it was Abraham who did the hijrah from Kufa to Syria, from Iraq to Syria. That is the correct opinion. The scholars, they split right down the middle as to who made the hijrah. The correct opinion, the hijrah was made by Abraham from Iraq to Syria. Why he made hijrah? Because the people didn't want to believe in monotheism, and he got fed up. They dumped him in the fire. It took 1 month to gather the wood for the fire. All the animals of Iraq tried to blow the fire out, try to get the fire out. The only animal that blew the fire up on Abraham was the gecko. So because of that, the Rasul said, kill this lizard wherever you find it. I hope I spelled the word properly. Gecko. Did I spell it properly? Gecko. It's a lizard, and it's the only animal that blew the fire up on Ibrahim to make it become bigger. Gecko. It has no H in it. Aisha used to have a stick in her house to kill the gecko whenever she sees the gecko. Aisha kept a stick just to kill this lizard in case she sees it. It's the only animal that didn't help Abraham to come out of the fire. It blew the fire up on Abraham. The hadith about the gecko is in Bukhari, I'm sure. And we bestowed on him, Abraham, Ishaq and Yaqub. And we ordained among his offspring prophethood and the book, that is the Torah, to Musa, the Injil to Isa, and the Quran to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all from the offspring of Abraham. And we granted him his reward in this world, and verily in hereafter he is indeed among the righteous. Prophets can only come from the bloodline of Abraham. I put it to you. Prophets can only come from the bloodline of Abraham. Therefore, Ishaq and Yaqub, they were from the bloodline of Abraham. And Ismail was from the bloodline of Abraham. From the bloodline of Ismail came Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is not permissible for prophets to come from any bloodline except the bloodline of Abraham, and because of that he is the Imam of the Alameen. When Muhammad came in Mecca as a prophet, it was because Abraham made a dua and begged Allah to send Muhammad. When Allah rose up Muhammad, sent Muhammad in Mecca, it was a dua that Abraham made for Allah to send Muhammad. So where is this dua? This dua is Baqarah 129. The famous dua. When you see Saudi Arabia being rich in oil as well as Iraq, why Iraq and Saudi Arabia, they have the largest oil reserves? Because of the dua of Abraham. Why Mecca is peaceful with no natural disasters? Is because of the dua of Abraham. We covered the many duas of Abraham in this room, but I think some of you didn't get it. Maybe the admins can bring the link. When Allah sent Muhammad in Mecca, it was a dua of Abraham found in Baqarah 129. What is the dua? رَبَّنَا وَبَعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِكَ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. O Lord, and send among them a messenger of their own, and indeed Allah answered their invocation by sending Muhammad, who shall recite to them your verses and instruct them in the book which is the Quran, and hikmah, the hikmah which is the sunnah, and purify them, yuzakkihim. Verily you are the Almighty, the All-Wise. So when Muhammad came in Mecca, it was a dua of Abraham when Allah begged, Abraham begged Allah to send a Rasul to teach the Arabs their religion, to teach them, to instruct them with Kitab and Hikmah. Kitab is Quran and Hikmah is Sunnah. And we granted him reward in this world and verily in hereafter. He is indeed among the righteous. And remember Lut when he said to his people, you commit fahisha, sodomy, the worst sin which none has preceded you in committing. Nobody before you in the Alameen commit sodomy. Now, there are people who they want to put a spin on sodomy. If a man should sodomize his wife, with anal sex with his wife, he is not a kafir. He's a fasik. If a man should sodomize another man, he's a kafir. Now, when he becomes a kafir, if a man dabbles in homosexuality and then he acknowledged the errors of his ways and he left it and make tawbah, he's not a kafir because he left it. But if a man refuses to listen to who is a kafir from the gay, because I don't want you to be a khawarij. If a man refuses to get married and he said, that's my sexual preference, that's a kafir. In Islam, you don't have any sexual preference. If you're a man, you have to go to bed with a woman. If you're a woman, you have to go to bed with a man. There is no such thing called sexual preference. That is the shaitan. That's the scums of the earth who are living in Europe and America. They come up with the expression sexual preference. That doesn't exist in Islam. You have no choice in Islam. If you're born with a penis, you have to get married to a woman. If you are a hermaphrodite and you're born with both genitals, the male and the female private parts, you have to go to a doctor and he does checks to see if you're a male or a female. And then he has to do an operation and cut out the private part which is not functional. And then you have to live your life as a male if the doctor says you're a male. And you live your life like a female if the doctor says you're a female. And you have to wear hijab if the doctor says you're a female. And go to the female loo, the female toilets, if the doctor says you're a female, and wear hijab. That is if you were born with two private parts, male and female. And you are only allowed to go to a Muslim doctor to sort you out, not a Kafir doctor. We don't trust kuffar doctors in this regard. And if the doctor pronounces you a female, you have to take tablets for female hormones. And if the doctor pronounces you a male, you have to take tablets for testosterone to become a proper male, to help you to become a proper male. Testosterone, or even steroids in that case. So in Islam, you can't say I have a sexual preference. So which gay is the kafir? Which gay is kafir? The kafir who is a gay, or the gay who is a kafir, is the one who says, I won't be getting married because I have my sexual preference. My sexual preference is male. I'm sorry, I won't be getting married. That's my sexual preference. That man is a kafir. Now, there are people who say a gay can be a Muslim. I disagreed with my university on 3 counts, and still they gave me my degree and let me graduate with flying colors. The first count I disagreed with them is when a woman misses Ramadan because of breastfeeding or pregnancy, she has to make it up. I will never accept that. You know why? Because Ibn Abbas didn't tell the woman to make it up. All she does is to feed poor people, which is to give away $200 to poor people for Ramadan. So a woman who misses 3 Ramadan because of breastfeeding and pregnancy, she has to make up all 3 Ramadan. I'm sorry, I will never accept that. And I made that clear to my sheikhs in Riyadh. The second thing, niqab is fard, even in Dar Harb. I can't accept that, because when Bilal was sent by the Prophet to collect sadaqah from the woman at the Tabuk expedition, when Bilal came back, he described one of the women as having a black spot on her cheek. If niqab was imposed by the Prophet in the time of the Prophet, why Bilal said, I saw one of the women, she had a black spot on her cheek. And this was in the later stages of Islam, not the early Islam, later, the Tabuk expedition, the last battle of the Prophet before he died. The third count, a man who is a gay can be a Muslim. I will never accept that. I told my sheikhs, these 3 things I will never accept from you. A gay can be a Muslim. So a man who says, this is my sexual preference, I won't be getting married because to be gay is my sexual preference, you're a kafir. So why is it that I will never accept that a gay can be a Muslim? You know why? 3 caliphs, when they caught them, they stoned them to death, and death wasn't good enough for them. They burnt their bodies and refused to do janazah over them. Which three caliphs? Abu Bakr Siddiq, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Abdullah ibn Zubair. Abdullah ibn Zubair was a caliph and Yazid was a caliph. There were two caliphs. I don't want to go into that. This is in Nail al-Awthar. This fiqh book is a hadith and fiqh book. Nail al-Awthar. This book is a classic. You ask any sheikh about Nail al-Awthar. This book is a classic. If you have this book in your house, it's like you have diamonds in your house. Nail al-Awthar. Ask your local sheikh about Nail al-Awthar, written by Ashokani. This book is a classic. The caliphs did not pray over gays, so why should I call them Muslims? I'm sorry, I will never accept them as Muslims. I was sitting down in my living room in London, minding my own business. I saw a big march called the Mardi Gras, and to my surprise, I saw about 5 Muslims marching with the white people and say, we are Muslims and we are gay. And they look Asians to me, like Bengalis or Pakistanis or Indians. We are Muslims, we are gay. You want me to accept them as Muslims? Then I was in South Africa. I went on a tour. And when I was in Cape Town, I was told about the gay Imam Mohsin Hendricks. He went to Pakistan to become a Maulana. He came back as a gay. Mohsin Hendricks. Mohsin Hendricks. Then he started his own halqa, and he called it the inner circle. A study circle for gays, lesbians, and bisexuals. Can you believe it? A halqa, a study circle for gays, lesbians, and bisexuals. That's what I saw on my African tour. But this African tour was not all hunky-dory like you think. I had disappointments. And don't think because I spoke in just a minute, 100, 300 masjids on the African tour, you think every masjid opened their doors to me. No, that wasn't the case. They saw the Salafis and the Sufis, they didn't want me in their masjids. They saw the Salafis and the Goofy Sufis, they didn't want me in their masjids. So don't think the African tour was smooth, all hunky-dory. I had disappointments. Now, these people who say I can be gay and be a Muslim, they want to start a foundation called the Pink Mosque. The Pink Mosque. They want to paint their masjid pink. And this masjid is for gays, lesbians, and bisexuals. When you open your mouth and pass a fatwa and say a gay can be a Muslim, what can stop them from establishing their Pink Mosque? You tell me. The other Maulanas, what verdict they passed on Mohsin Hendricks? They didn't say he's a Kafir, they said he's a Satanist. They didn't use the word Kafir. The word Kafir is too good for him. They said this man is a Satanist. He worships the shaitan, not Allah. The word Kafir is too mild for him. Because some Kafirs hate gays. That's why they didn't call him a Kafir. Because some Kafirs, they hate gays. They don't accept homosexuality. Have you heard about Mitt Romney, the presidential candidate for the Republicans in America? Mitt Romney, he doesn't endorse gay marriages. He spoke out against gay marriages. And he's not a Muslim. I think he's a Mormon. And in spite of him being a Mormon, he doesn't endorse gay marriages. Mitt Romney, the presidential candidate for the Republicans. So you cannot call Mohsin Hendricks a Kafir because not every Kafir believes in gay marriages. So what they call him? A Satanist. A man who worships the shaitan, not Allah. That is the verdict the scholars gave him in South Africa. So Lut said to the people, you are practicing a fahisha. Fahisha means abnormal intercourse. You are practicing a fahisha. Innakum latatuna ar-rijal. Verily, you practice sodomy with men and rob the wayfarer. And remember, Lut, when he said to the people, you commit sodomy, the worst sin which none has done before you. Nobody did this before you. You practice sodomy with men. And you do highway robbing. You rob the wayfarer. And practice munkar, every evil, every wicked deed in your meetings. But his people gave no answer except that they said, bring Allah's torment upon us if you are speaking the truth. Why are you hastening Allah's torment? It's easy for Allah to bring His torment. Why are you hastening? You're such fools. Now, they did, according to my research about the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, they were in Jordan. The city was in Jordan. They practiced sodomy, they practiced highway robbing, and they used to do ram fights. They bring the rams to fight. And they used to do cockfight. They bring the cocks to fight. That is animal abuse. You're abusing animals. Cockfight, ram fight. They used to fart in public loudly and compete to see who can fart the loudest. What they did, they fart loudly in public and compete to see who can fart the loudest, and then they would laugh. So they had no morals. A man with morals, he doesn't break wind in public. Especially a woman. A woman will never break wind in public. No woman in the world will break wind in public, because then she's not a lady anymore. That's how evil these people were. So Allah Ta'ala had no choice but to destroy them. You practice sodomy with men and rob the wayfarer, and practice disbelief. They said, bring Allah's torment if you are speaking the truth. He said, my Lord, give me victory over the people who are mufsidun, those who commit sins. And when our messenger came to Abraham with the glad tidings, they said, now Allah said, our messengers came to Abraham with the glad tidings. Angel Gabriel and another angel, some hadith 3 angels. They gave Abraham glad tidings. So what is the glad tidings? What is the glad tidings they brought to Abraham? I'm quoting to you Surah Al-Ankabut verse 31. Because Allah said they gave Abraham glad tidings. What is the glad tidings? They brought 2 news to Abraham. One was a sad news and one was a bad news. Sorry, one was sad and one was good. 2 news, one was good, glad tidings, one was a bad news. So what is the glad tidings? The glad tidings is that his wife Sarah will give birth to Ishaq after she was barren. That is the glad tidings. Your wife Sarah will give birth 13 years after Hagar gave birth to her son Ismail. The firstborn son was Ismail, and Ismail was the sacrificial son. The sacrificial son was Ismail. 13 years after Hagar gave birth to her son, you're going to give birth to your son, and his name will be Ishaq. That is the glad tidings Allah is talking about in this ayah. Surah Al-Ankabut verse 31. Glad tidings, they said, verily we are going to destroy the people of Lut, the town of Sodom and Gomorrah in Palestine. Truly its people have been zalimun, wrongdoers, polytheists, and who belied our messenger. They rejected faith in Lut as a messenger. So the Tafseer, it says this town is in Palestine. But the Dead Sea, which was destroyed, that is the saltest sea in the world. The saltest sea on earth is the Dead Sea, where the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were. Did you know that it's a tourist attraction and people like to go there? Europeans. They save up the same way you save your money to go to Hajj. They save up their money to go to the sea, to dip in the sea where Allah destroyed the homosexuals. They gravitate towards that sea because that's the sea where the homosexuals were destroyed. Because Europeans, they destroy to anything which is linked to homosexuality. Thousands of people a year go there in bus loads to the Dead Sea to go and take a dip. Because it is a sea where Allah destroyed the homosexuals of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the Europeans, they gravitate to anything which is linked to homosexuality, either directly or indirectly. Abram said, but there is Lot in there. My nephew Lot is there. They said, we know better who is there. We will verily save him and his family except his wife. She will be of those who remain behind. She will be destroyed along with those who will be destroyed from her folks. And when our messenger came to Lot, he was grieved because of them and felt straitened. So they came in the form of handsome young men. And they came, Lot told them to come at Maghrib time, when the people will not realize they are men. Because Lot knew that if he knew that they will come and rape the guests. They warned Lot, don't bring males to the house. We are going to rape them in front of your very eyes. So he was worried for them when they came. Handsome young men. Now, why did Allah send them as handsome young men? As a fitna for the homosexuals. That's why Allah sent them as handsome young men. As a fitna. This was a fitna for the homosexuals. Abraham said, but there is my nephew there. But they said, we know better who is there. We will verily save him and his family except his wife. She will be of those who remain behind. So some women, they can't leave Dar al-Harb. They can't migrate. Some women, they can't leave Europe and America to migrate. They are like the wife of Prophet Lot. Their hearts are connected to Dar al-Harb. If you say, sister, I found your husband, but you have to migrate and go and live in another country. She said, sorry, find somebody from my country. I will only marry somebody from my country. Most sisters cannot migrate from Dar al-Harb. They are like the wife of Prophet Lot. Her heart was connected to Sodom and Gomorrah. Even though Europe and America has become Sodom and Gomorrah, they endorse gay marriages, even the president. People can't migrate because they love Sodom and Gomorrah. They are like the wife of Prophet Lot. They have the same aqidah as Prophet Lot's wife. They can't migrate from Dar al-Harb. And because a lot of sisters cannot migrate from Dar al-Harb, they are like the wife of Prophet Lot. The Prophet Muhammad said, when the Dajjal comes, the majority of those who follow the Dajjal will be women and Jews. A'udhu Billah. The majority of those who follow the Dajjal will be women and Jews. A man will be terrified about his mother, his wife, his daughter, his aunt. Following the Dajjal, he has to use rope and tie his women folks in the house. A man will have to use ropes and tie his women folks in the house. His mother, his wife, his daughter, his sister, his aunt. Tie them in the home. Why? Because if he doesn't tie them up, they will leave the home to follow the Dajjal. A woman gravitate towards dunya, dunya, dunya. Women gravitate towards dunya. Dunya, dunya. And they can't make hijrah. Very few can make hijrah. So they feel comfortable to live in Europe and America. Even though Europe and America have destroyed their iman and turned them into prostitutes. And many Muslim women are fornicating the kuffar men. They even come and paltalk and brag about it. They even take the mic in a room called Oxymoron and brag about it. Even though Dar al-Harb have taken away their iman, they can't migrate because they gravitate towards dunya. The wife of Prophet Lot, not only did she gravitate towards Sodom and Gomorrah, the pomp and glitter of the city, she didn't have a problem with homosexuality. Many people are homosexuals and they don't realize it. If you don't have a problem with homosexuality, if you approve of it, you didn't hate it in your heart, you're a homosexual, even though you don't dabble in the act. For you to be contented with the act, you're a kafir. Because according to Sharia law, rida bil kufr kufr. When you are pleased with kufr, it is kufr and you become a kafir. Rida means to be pleased. Rida bil kufr kufr. If you are pleased with kufr, if you see a Buddhist bowing down to Buddha, and you didn't hate it in your heart, you're a kafir and you're a Buddhist. If you see a man bowing down to the statue of Jesus, and you didn't hate it in your heart, you're a kafir and you're a Christian. If you see a man walking down the road with lipstick and earrings and tights, stockings, and ladies' handbag, eyeshadow, mascara, heels, and you know he's a gay, and you didn't hate it in your heart, that means you're a gay, because ar-rida bil kufr, when you are pleased with kufr, you are a kafir. To believe in Allah is not enough to make you a Muslim. To be a full-fledged Muslim, you need to reject the taghut. You have to reject all falsehood. When you reject the taghut and believe in Allah, then you are a full-fledged Muslim. The wife of Prophet Lut did not dabble in homosexuality, but in her heart she was contented with it, and she refused to do hijrah. She was among those who lagged behind, so she was destroyed with the fire and brimstone that came down from the heavens. Who brought down the fire and brimstone? Jibreel alayhi salam. Jibreel turned the city upside down and around and took the city high in the sky and then dropped it back down on the ground until they became scorched up like vegetables. Then he rained down upon them fire and brimstone. And that was after Prophet Lut left the city. His wife did not leave the city. She stayed behind, because hijrah was not on her agenda. I put it to you, there are many Muslim women in the world today, and men. Hijrah is not on their agenda. They want to stay in Europe and America. They want to become police. They want to become soldiers. They want to become MPs. They want to vote in democratic elections. They want to join the Liberal Democrat, the Conservatives, the Labour. They want to join the Republican Army, the Republican Party. They want to join the Democratic Party. They want to vote. They want to become senators and MPs. They want to become policemen. They want to become soldiers. They want to amalgamate into the society. And hijrah is the last thing on their agenda. They have now become Democrats and uphold democracy, and they have left Islam behind. Millions of Muslims have become like this in Europe and America. They have become Democrats, and Islam is now on the back burner. And they don't realize that democracy is a religion. It's a religion of Satan. So when you're a Democrat, it's like being a Jew or a Christian or a Hindu or Buddhist, and you are outside the fold of Islam. The wife of Abraham, hijrah was not on her agenda. She stayed behind in the city and became destroyed with those who were destroyed. So a prophet can have a kafir wife, because Iman cannot be transferred. Iman is not inherited. A prophet can have a kafir wife. And when our messengers came to Lut, he was grieved because of them and felt straitened on their account. They said, "Have no fear and do not grieve. Surely we shall save you and your family, except your wife. She will be of those who remain behind." Why she remain behind? Because hijrah is not on her agenda. She will be destroyed along with those who will be destroyed from her folk. Verily, we are about to bring down on the people of this town a great torment from the sky, because they have been rebellious against Allah's command. Now, why was he worried for his guests? Because he didn't realize they were angels. And even Abraham, when they passed by Abraham, he cooked food for them. And they did not eat the food, and Abraham became worried. How can my guests not eat my food? Well, we say to Abraham, they didn't eat your food that you cooked, because angels don't eat or drink or have sex. That's why they didn't eat your food. Then Abraham realized they were angels. So he said, "What is your mission?" Why he said, "What's your mission?" Because Abraham knew Allah is not frivolous. Why would Allah send angels on earth except for a reason? Allah is not frivolous. So he said, "What's your mission?" "I was sent to give you the glad tidings that your wife will get pregnant, and she'll give birth to Ishaq. And the other news, which is a bad news. The first news is a good news." So the sunnah of the angels is that when you have two news, give the good news, then the bad news. That's what the angels did to Abraham. The sunnah. You have two news, one good, one bad. What do? You give the good news, then the bad news. That is the sunnah of the angels. They told Abraham the good news, then they told him the bad news. He was worried for his nephew. What lesson you learn? Two prophets were living on the earth simultaneously. When the prophet was alive, no prophet was alive with him, because he was sent to the whole world. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We didn't send you Muhammad except as a mercy for mankind. He said, my nephew is there, Lut is there. What do you learn? Even prophets have family ties and they care about their kith and kin. Even prophets have emotions and they care about their kith and kin because Abraham was concerned for his nephew. That is the other lesson you learn from this tafsir. And the other lesson you learn, every prophet was sent to a single nation, but Muhammad was sent to the whole world. Allah sent the angels as handsome young men, and this was a fitna for the homosexuals. How did they find out men arrived in the house of Lut? How did they find out men arrived in the house of Lut? Because his wife went on the roof of the house and built a fire to signal to the homosexuals. His wife stabbed him in the back. What did his wife do? She went on the house, the roof of the house, and built a big fire to tell the homosexuals, my husband Lut has male guests, come and rape them. His wife stabbed him in the back. So the other lesson you learn from this tafsir tonight, sometimes your own wife can be your enemy, like Allah told you in Surah 64 verse 14. Surah 64 verse 14. يَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنَّ مِنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ وَأَوْلَادِكُمْ عَدُوًّا لَكُمْ فَاحْذَرُوهُمْ. All who believe, verily among your wives and your children there are enemies for you who may stop you from your obedience to Allah, therefore beware of them. Surah 64, Surah Taghabun, verse 14. Lut suffered exactly what Allah is talking about in this surah, in this ayah. Lut suffered this at first hand because it was his wife who built a fire to signal to the homosexuals, men arrive in my house, come and rape them. Maybe you're tired, maybe I should stop for today. The hukum for homosexuals, the man who dabbles in homosexuality, then he makes tawbah, makes amend and changes ways, gets married, he's a Muslim. The man who refuses to get married and says, this is my sexual preference, he is a kafir. What's the evidence? When the caliph caught them, they stoned them to death and they refused to do janazah over them. They burnt their bodies. We don't burn the bodies of Muslims. And when the Prophet used to stone people for adultery, the Prophet used to do janazah for them. But here, the caliphs, when they caught homosexuals, they did not do janazah for them and they burnt their bodies. Now, what is the hikmah behind burning their bodies? What's the hikmah? Why you burn the bodies of the gay when you kill him in the Islamic State? You can't kill gays in Dar al-Harb, in Europe and America, because they control those countries. The hikmah behind burning their bodies is that when you burn their bodies and reduce it to ashes, their families can claim the body and try to bury them in the graveyard of the Muslims. That's the hikmah. If you reduce their bodies to ashes, their families can claim the body and then demand for the body to be buried in the graveyard of the Muslims. In Senegal, they caught a gay, and when he was killed, his family wanted to bury him in the graveyard of the Muslims, and it created big fitna. Maybe the admins can find that link about the gay in Senegal. His family wanted to bury him in the graveyard of the Muslims, and it caused fitna. In the end, they had to abandon his body outside the graveyard to decompose. He couldn't be buried in the graveyard of the Muslims. And when our messengers came to Lut, he was grieved because of them and felt straitened on their account. He was worried. They said, have no fear and do not grieve. Truly, we shall save you and your family, except your wife. She will be of those who remain behind. She will be destroyed along with those who will be destroyed with her folks. Why she stayed behind? She stayed behind because Hijrah was not on her agenda. Okay, you found the link. That was very quick. The gay man's body desecrated in Senegal. Yes. If you don't burn the bodies of the gays, their family will argue with you and say, we want to bury him in the graveyard of the Muslims. But when you burn his body and reduce it to ashes, there is no argument because there is no body to bury in the graveyard of the Muslims. That is the hikmah why the caliphs burnt their bodies and reduced it to ashes. And when our messengers came to Lut, And verily, we are about to bring down on the people of this town a great torment from the sky because they have been rebellious against Allah's command. The angel Gabriel took the city up in the sky, raised the city up in the sky, then dropped it down until they became squashed up like vegetables. Then rained down upon them fire and brimstone. This is how the angel Gabriel destroyed the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, which the Tafseer said was in Palestine. It's on the outskirts between Palestine and Jordan. And indeed, we have left thereof an evident sign, a lesson. The place where the Dead Sea is now in Palestine for a folk who understand. Ayah 35. The Dead Sea, which the Europeans they go to every day in buses. In buses. They flock to that city, the Dead Sea, which is very, very salt. The saltest sea on earth. Allah said this is a sign for mankind because the sea remains the saltest sea on earth. The Dead Sea, where the tourists from Europe they go there by the thousands because Europeans they gravitate to anything which is linked to homosexuality. I've been speaking for a long time. We'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah. First question, Sheikh, as for those who insist on defending the lands of the Muslims, example Egypt and Tunisia and other dictatorships, and insist it's better than Western world, really says otherwise, how do we checkmate these people? The revolutions of Tunisia and Egypt were not Islamic revolutions because they replaced one Taghut with another Taghut. It's only a genuine revolution if they replace the Kufr with Sharia law. So what the people did, they jumped from the frying pan into the fire. It's not an Islamic revolution because Sharia was not reinstated. I use the word reinstated because Sharia was in these countries during the caliphate of Omar ibn al-Khattab and Muawiyah. Muawiyah conquered Tunisia. Muawiyah conquered the whole of North Africa except for Egypt. Egypt was conquered by Omar. All these revolutions that are taking place, which is called the Arab Spring, in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Libya, and in Yemen as well, these are fake revolutions because Sharia was not reinstated. If Sharia was not reinstated and implemented, it's a fake revolution. All you did was to jump from the frying pan into the fire because all you did was to replace one Taghut with another Taghut. I'm sure if you speak to the Egyptians, they'll tell you the people are still suffering because they replaced one Taghut with military rule. The people are still suffering. So the West and these countries, they are the same because they are Darul Harb. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Are women allowed to make hijrah by themselves? Do they need to seek permission from their wali? A woman cannot make hijrah by herself. She needs permission from her wali unless her wali arranges for her to get married to a man in the country she's going to. She has to, the wali has to arrange for her to get married to a man in the country she's making hijrah to, and the man will become her mahram and her husband. But to make hijrah and then you are by yourself with no mahram in that country, that is haram. You have to arrange, the wali has to arrange for you to have a husband where you're going to make hijrah to, so that you are not by yourself. In Islam, a woman cannot live in a country by herself without a husband or a father or a brother to look after her affairs, and this man is called her mahram. What do you say to the women who pray and fast even when menstruating? The prohibition to do so is clear in the Quran and Sunnah. Are these women doing bid'ah if they do so after the hujjah has been given to them? These women who pray and fast when they are menstruating, they have made up their own religion, and this is called Zandaqa, heresy. They have made up their own religion, and this is called Zandaqa. And Aisha said to a Khawarij woman, we used to menstruate in the time of the Prophet, and we made up the fast but not the salah, because this Khawarij woman wanted to make up the salah as well. And Aisha became upset with her and said, we menstruated in the time of the Prophet and we made up the fasting we missed, but we didn't make up the salah that we missed. So this hadith of Aisha, can the admins bring it? She said, a Haruriya anti, are you a Khawarij? Haruriya is another name for the Khawarij because they inhabited that part of the land called Harura. Aisha said, we menstruated in the time of the Prophet and we made up the fasting that we missed, but not the salah. So for you to fast and pray while you are menstruating, you have become a zindiq, a heretic, and you have made up your own religion. A woman asked Aisha, should I offer the pearls that which I did not offer because of menses? Aisha said, are you from the Huraira, a town in Iraq? We were with the Prophet and used to get our periods, but he never ordered us to offer them the pearls that we missed during menses. Aisha perhaps said, we did not offer them. So the Prophet, why Aisha said we missed the pearls and the Prophet didn't tell us to make up the pearls that we missed? Because when you are menstruating, you miss pearls. Because it's haram to pray when you are menstruating. You miss prayers. So the women who pray when they are menstruating, always remember this hadith found in Bukhari. That the Prophet told the women to stop praying when they were menstruating. Also, another hadith you can bring, your tawaf is salah, and when a woman is menstruating, the Prophet said you are not allowed to do tawaf. Why? Because tawaf is salah. Aisha menstruated when she went for Hajj with the Prophet. The Prophet said, do everything except tawaf because the tawaf is salah. And you cannot do salah when you're menstruating. Another hujjah against the women who do salah when they are menstruating. The tawaf around the house is like the salah except that you converse during it. The tawaf and he who converse does not do except with a good word. So when you do tawaf and you converse, only say good things. Okay, bring the other hadith where Aisha menstruated on Hajj and the Prophet said, do everything except tawaf, because what? The tawaf is salah. But the menstruating woman is allowed to run between Safa and Marwa. A menstruating woman can run between Safa and Marwa because that is not salah. But a menstruating woman cannot do tawaf because tawaf is salah. I'm taking 5 questions. Where are the others? Please give the hujjah that if you listen to Kafir music, that it's not religious. Just rock and roll stuff, you are doing haram, but you are not a kafir. Same adultery, drinking, alcohol, zina. There are 3 types of people: Muslim, kafir, and sinners. So many want us to say these are kuffar instead of zindiq, and we need to checkmate them and distinguish between doing kufr and being a kafir. May Allah Ta'ala bless you much. This person is a Khawarij. If you're going to make takfir on people who listen to music and drink alcohol, or those who do zina, you're a Khawarij, a dog of Jahannam. Because these things do not eject you outside the fold of Islam. These things do not eject you outside the fold of Islam. Now the admins can bring the link, the devil's deception of the Khawarij, or jokers in the pack, refuting the Khawarij. The hujjah is that a man used to drink in the time of the Prophet, and somebody said, may the curse of Allah be upon you. Aren't you ashamed of drinking and being flogged for drinking? The Prophet heard and he said, don't curse him. Wallahi, he loves Allah and His Rasul. The man who was drinking, the Prophet said, don't curse him. Wallahi, he loves Allah and His Rasul. Therefore, drinking doesn't make a person become a kafir. This is the aqidah of the Khawarij. The only thing that ejects a person outside the fold of Islam is kufr akbar. Drinking is a major sin, but it's called kufr asghar, minor kufr. A minor kufr. The only thing that takes you outside the fold of Islam is a sin which is classified as major kufr. These people, they have a problem with aqidah they have their Khawarij Aqidah because they were not taught Tawheed and they don't know the difference between major kufr and minor kufr. They paint every kufr with the same brush and they say kufr is kufr. That's why they become Khawarij. They paint every kufr with the same brush and they say kufr is kufr. I put it to you that when a man drinks or cheats on his wife, it's not major kufr, it's minor kufr. So the adulterer and the drinker is a Muslim, not a Kafir. And if you make takfir on them, you become a Khawarij. The only time a man becomes a Kafir for drinking is if he does istihlal, if he makes the drinking halal. When a person commits a minor kufr, he becomes a Kafir when he does istihlal by making his zina or his khamr halal. If he did not do istihlal, he is still a Muslim. And he is called a weak Muslim, a sinful Muslim. If he makes drinking and adultery halal, then they are a Kafir, then they are kuffar, yes. If they did not make drinking and adultery halal, they are still Muslims. The only sin that can take you outside the fold is a sin which was classified as kufr akbar, major kufr, like to dabble in black magic, to spy for the kuffar, to do black magic, to insult Allah, to insult the Rasul, to insult the Quran, to accuse the Quran of being corrupted. All these are examples of major kufr that takes you outside the fold. If a person did not do major kufr, he is a Muslim and you are not allowed to make takfir on him. It's unfortunate that this person has the Aqidah of the Khawarij. He needs to listen to this, the talk or read the notes, the devil's deception of the Khawarij. One last question, please. Just a minute. Murder is not major kufr. Murder is minor kufr. A murderer is not a kafir. Could I delete murder? Murder is not major kufr. Murder is minor kufr. A murderer is not a kafir. A murderer is still a Muslim. I'm thinking about studying in Medina. Do you recommend me to do it? And Anwar Olaki did series of Abu Bakr and Umar. Can you do series of Uthman and Ali? Is the Saudi regime a murtad regime? I prefer you study in Al-Qura or Riyadh, because Medina has a sickness we call the Medina sickness, which is the Saudi Salafi sickness, the Madkhali sickness. I prefer you study in Al-Qura or Riyadh. Can't you see the radical clerics are from Riyadh? Oh, Medina has a problem. However, if you did not get into any other university, only Medina accepted you, well, I will endorse it reluctantly, because you might come back as a Saudi Salafi. Come back believing to dismantle the Sharia is a minor kufr. And this is unfortunate. The Saudi regime is an apostate regime because they give their wala to the Zionists and the Crusaders to fight Islam. They helped America to conquer Iraq, and when Iraq was conquered, the Abu Ghraib scandal broke and thousands of Muslim women were brutally raped by the army of the Dajjal. The House of Saud, their Qibla is the White House in Washington, not the Black House in Mecca. It's an apostate regime because they give their wala, their allegiance to the Zionists and the Crusaders, and according to Ma'idah 51, when you help the Jews and Christians against the Muslims, you become one of them. The House of Saud is an apostate regime because they join the UN and give their bay'ah to the UN. And Allah said in Surah Muhammad, verses 25 to 26, Surah Muhammad is Surah 47. When you give your bay'ah to those who hate what Allah has revealed, you become a kafir. The Saudi regime is an apostate regime because their banking system is riba bank. They did istihlal of riba. When you do istihlal of riba or zina, you become a kafir. That was the last question. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.